Liberal leader Mark Carney is back in Ottawa today to deal with the fallout of new auto tariffs announced by U.S. President Donald Trump.
That means Carney is suspending his campaign plans for the day and is sort of turning to his prime ministerial role to hold a meeting of the Canada-U.S. Cabinet Committee in the Capitol. Yesterday, U.S. President Trump signed an executive order imposing 25% tariffs on all auto imports to the United States as of April 2nd. The White House says automobiles imported under the free trade agreement will only be tariffed on the value of content not made in the U.S. and that certain parts will likely see tariffs and delays.
So joining us live now is Lana Payne, Unifor National President. Lana, thank you so much for joining us. This is obviously very concerning for you, the auto sector, and your over 30,000 members. But you've set out some guidelines for how the Canadian government should respond to these latest tariff threats set to come in April 2nd, starting with penalizing companies that do decide to move jobs to the U.S.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is, an incredible day in terms of our relationship with the United States and what has transpired, not just in the last 24 hours, but in the last number of weeks. We are in an economic war right now with our closest neighbor, and this is an attempt by the U.S. president to destroy jobs in our country, to steal jobs from our country, to have production shifted from Canada to the United States. And we have no choice here but to push back and to squeeze ourselves and to play hardball here to make sure we're protecting every single auto job, not just for today, but into the future.
Lana, I couldn't help but notice that yesterday morning in Windsor, you were standing almost next to Liberal leader Mark Carney as he was making his announcement about protecting jobs and about the integrated automotive sector. And then here we are in the afternoon, turns around and those tariffs do get slapped on here. I wonder, you must be, as the Unifor National President, assessing kind of where the parties stand and what their plans are to deal with this. Is that suggesting that you are supporting the Liberals and Mark Carney in this, or do you like what everyone like Pierre Poilievre, for example, is saying about how to tackle this as well?
Well, first, I wasn't in Windsor, but I did meet with Mark Carney yesterday in Kitchener. This was it was a prearranged meeting to discuss a wide range of things, including Unifor's plan for the economy and how we make sure we build a more resilient Canadian economy in the face of what we are dealing with right now. We do not endorse political parties, but we would love to have every single political party endorse what it is that we have as a plan for the country and as a plan for working people, and how we put workers at the center of how we build an economy that works for all of us.
Yeah, and Lana, let's say these tariffs do come into fruition April 2nd, along with aluminum and all kinds of other stuff. What are you hearing from your members? What are they most concerned about? Job security must be one of them, but is there a plan to protect them, to have some kind of a safety net in case all this does happen?
Well, first of all, our priority here is to save our jobs and save our plants. And hopefully a safety net will not be required. But the reality is that Canada is going to have to play hardball here. This is an industry that we have had in our country for well over 100 years. This is not Donald Trump's industry. It is not the U.S. industry. We sell 2 million cars in Canada in the run of a year. That means Canadians buy 2 million cars. And if you're selling here, you should be building here. And if you have that as a premise, then the reality is we will save these plants and we will build more plants here. And that's the place we have to get to. The entire world has changed, and we have to change with it and get ahead of what is, a shifting geopolitical situation. We have to have strong industrial policies to make sure we're protecting Canadian workers in every single sector, including the auto sector.
Yeah, I think that argument makes a lot of sense to people listening this morning, Lana. I'm also curious, and also because, you talked about this, the integrated nature of the North American auto market. We just had the Exporters and Manufacturers Association on talking about how different parts, how do you identify how they're going to have to sort of untangle this web and figure out what was made in Canada, what was made in Mexico, what's made in the USA, defining all of that by April the 2nd. I mean, how easy is this, in fact? Do you even know?
It is not easy. Some of it is proprietary information that not even our union would have access to. It'd be very difficult to map this out. But the other challenge will be will parts of the industry be able to withstand these tariffs, and will they be able to continue to operate? And that is something that we'll have to assess, because we have said it before. The reality is these kinds of tariffs on an integrated industry like the auto industry will mean that the industry itself could potentially grind to a halt. And that is something that this president doesn't seem to understand or care about. It's not only Canadian auto workers' jobs who are at risk here. American workers will be hurt by this too.
Yeah, it seems like U.S. President Donald Trump seems to think, hey, a factory can be built on U.S. soil the day after. But obviously, if this comes to a halt, the rebuilding of this system, moving from an integrated one to one of solely Canada and U.S., that's not going to happen overnight.
No, and the reality is, I mean, you have this problem today, but if he keeps squeezing companies the way he has been, they will make decisions. And those decisions will not be good for us unless we respond in a fashion that makes sure that we protect what we have here in Canada and grow what we have here in Canada. And that's why it's so critical now what our government does in the coming days and weeks.
Lana, what do you hear from your counterparts, auto workers across the border, in Michigan, in Detroit? What are they telling you and saying to you right now?
Well, actually, we're at odds around this. The UAW, which is the union that represents auto workers in the U.S., have been pro-tariff. They have been supporting Trump. So obviously, we are in complete disagreement on this policy. And I would say to you, I think that their position is extremely naive from the perspective that this industry is a North American industry. It has been built that way. And any attack on a part of that industry and on jobs in one country or another is going to impact the other country and jobs in that country. And they have to come to a realization that that's exactly where we are.
Lana, a lot of your key recommendations for the government are kind of long-term plans, how to shore up our economy and protect our resources, our minerals, the forestry industry, energy. But aside from throwing reciprocal tariffs back at the U.S., which Trump has said he's going to announce more of on April 2nd, is there anything else we can do in the immediate moment that is going to save us, essentially?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think a message to the automakers themselves in terms of if you expect to build here or if you expect to sell here, you're going to have to build here. Canada has a very vibrant market, and if you want access to it, there's going to be a cost to having that access. And if you don't build here, there's going to be a cost to that. This will be, important in terms of how it is we preserve the auto industry into the future.
Okay, Lana Payne, Unifor's national president, really appreciate the time this morning, and we'll see where it goes today and in the coming days. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.